Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, from Eric Lima's Shenanigans of 1977, it's time to head back in our mental DeLoreans where we talk about things of pop culture back in the 80s and 90s with nostalgic shenanigans. And our host of this great segment is the youngster in the picture from the first grade in the 80s, Mr. Eric M. Lima. Thank you very much, Mr. Announcer, sir. Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Eric Lima's Shenanigans of 1977, episode 2417. And this is the 8th edition of Nostalgic Shenanigans. What is Nostalgic Shenanigans, you ask? Well, stuff I talk about from the 80s and 90s, whether it be from TV entertainment, music entertainment, video gaming entertainment, places that are of history and of entertainment or retro retailing, stores that I miss going to and all that, but also paying tribute to celebrities that have passed on. As you know, we had 3 of them this week that, probably the 3 of the biggest names in entertainment: Malcolm Jamal Warner from the TV spot. And then from the music spot, you got Ozzy Osbourne, and now on the wrestling, sports, entertainment, the legendary Hulk Hogan. And still trying to process the Hogan one, but the other 2 as well. It's crazy how things are, but I believe Ozzy went out the right way. After he did, was it a couple weeks after he did his last show, he went. He felt like his time on Earth was done, and I'll tell you what, he is missed, Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy Osbourne is rock's true Iron Man. Ride that crazy train into the afterlife. And then you got Malcolm Jamal Warner. To me, that was too soon. It was too soon, and my heart goes out to his family and friends and fans as well. And I just still can't believe it. And then, like I said, the Hulk Hogan one, I'm still trying to process that one. It's, I said a lot on yesterday's edition of Nostalgic Shenanigans, so you can check that out if you can, if you want to. But we're going to talk about, we're going to move on. We're going to talk about today's edition of Nostalgic Shenanigans. 3 days ago was July the 22nd, 2025. On that date, 30 years ago, we're going to be dating back 30 years ago, 1995. 95 was a strange year for me because I gone through a lot. It was a lot of changes that were happening that year. Changes I tried to adjust, to, accept, and everything else, but it was very difficult for me to do so. But there was one bright spot in 1995 that really did happen. I was with my church youth group at the time, and I turned 18, and it was like my last year with the church youth group. Because I think once you turn 18, you can leave the youth group. We all went in our cars. We headed down Route 195 west to a city called Warwick, Rhode Island. What was there in Warwick, Rhode Island was one of the most enjoyable places that I've ever been to in my life. I've only been to this place 4 times in my whole life. 4 times. Needless to say that this place that I went to was the final time I went there 30 years ago. Because after I went there, it closed down for good. That place was none other than Rocky Point Amusement Park. But like I said before, I only went there 4 times. Rocky Point Amusement Park was New England's edition of Disney World, so to speak. Or New England's edition of Disneyland, only smaller, on a smaller scale. It had so many crazy rides. The corkscrew, the free fall, and they had the Midway, they had the Skyline, the Apollo 2, the Music Express, the Tilt-A-Whirl, the Rock and Roll. the Enterprise, and the ever-dreaded House of Horrors. Yeah, I only went there once. The first time I went to Rocky Point, I thought it would be like a fun house. It turned out to be more scarier than that. Trust me. Never went in there. Although if I went in there back in 1995, I would do my Undertaker impression. And I'm sure people would like, Eric, shut up. How'd you know it was me? I would have done that. I would have done my Undertaker impression. Welcome to the House of Horrors. I am the Undertaker. Eric, shut up. Stop talking to wrestling. Okay, fine. How'd you know it was me, though? It's pitch dark. Well, the only one talking and running his mouth? Sorry. Couldn't resist a good joke when I got one. That would be great, but... Anyways, Rocky Point was one of my favorite parks. Was one of the most popular amusement parks in Rhode Island, southern New England. Only went there 4 times. The first 2 times I went was with the after-school program called the YMCA Latchkey program, of course. And that was the first time. The first time I went into Rocky Point. If I was a wrestling fan, the Undertaker wrestled back in the day, it would have been a little differently, you know. I can see, like, Eric keeps on doing his Undertaker impression. He won't shut up. He's scaring us. Anyways, yeah, I went in there. I was scared out of my mind. Seriously, it was a crazy thing, you know. But looking back at it, it's like, it wasn't so scary that much. You know? It had paper mache, you know, zombies been made out of paper mache. You got a poor girl about to be sawed in half, and you got a spider coming down. You got a dragon right in your face, and you know, it was a scary thing. Although it would have been great to have like a tomb, like an Egyptian tomb ride or something like that. It would have been really cool, like all the gold and stuff. Let's get some treasure. No, you know, giant scorpions be chasing you stuff. No, it was a scary ride. I liked the Apollo 2, where like, whoa, and we didn't know we'd go backwards. Holy crap, I'm going backwards. And then was it Music Express? You know, I felt like I almost going to slide off the thing. I'm like, hold on. So, and I went to the Enterprise. I thought the Enterprise just goes around there, and all of a sudden it starts going up, and I'm like, holy crap! I was afraid of heights. I had. What is the fear of? What is the fear of heights? I gotta find out what the fear of heights is. Just give me, you know. Yeah. Let's see. Let's see if, and, let's see, hold on just a second. You know, give me a second here. I'm gonna do. Give me a second here. Okay, fear of heights. I want to see what. Fear of heights, phobia. All right, acrophobia. That was the name. Acrophobia. I know arachnophobia is fear of spiders. Acrophobia is a fear of heights. I think I developed a little bit of that because I wasn't going to go on the corkscrew, and I didn't want to go on the Enterprise again. I've always liked these low ground rides you can go to without fear of falling off, like the Tilt-A-Whirl. I had a lot of fun. The Rock and Roll was very interesting. I had to give a shout out to my buddy Rick Kavanaugh. He gave me a DVD set of You Must Be This Tall, Rocky Point. I still have it with me. It's still in my CD DVD collection book. There I have. And it was, and you have Rocky Point was one. Like I said, I went there with my youth group, with my church youth group back in '95. I remember what I was wearing that day. I was wearing shorts, obviously. Also was wearing a Patriots jersey of Drew Bledsoe. We're talking, the streamlined Patriots jersey when they decided to transform from Pat Patriot to the Flying Elvis logo. And then also I was wearing a Toronto Raptors ball cap. The reason why, because I like the logo and the colors and all that. And I figured, oh, it's the colors of the 90s. And it was basically my second month on the job at Ruby Tuesday at the time. So I was going through a whole lot. And I was going through a whole lot. And I was going through a whole lot that year, obviously. But I had it, regardless of that, I had a great time at Rocky Point. But little did I know that would be the last and final time I went to Rocky Point, because the place closed down afterwards. And not immediately after, but I think about a year or two. It took a year, and it closed down. I did not even realize that. And I didn't realize it closed down until I looked it up on the internet. And it was such a strange, it is weird that you don't have, like I said, I went to the Whalen City Festival a couple weeks ago. Like I said, it was, I took a walk around inside the carnival. It wasn't the same. It wasn't the same. It's not, I would kind of wish the carnival would be like, almost like Rocky Point almost. And to me it wasn't the same no more. It's sad, but it has not been the same. It wasn't, it was never the same. I never, it was so strange. It was just surreal. It was so surreal, because you had all these rides. You had all these rides. It's been crazy. A lot of people, I seen pictures of Rocky Point, like bits and pieces of Rocky Point, what it was back in the day. You saw, the House of Horrors, which, the 80s, when I first went there in the 80s, 84, I think it was 84, 85. 1984, when I first went to Rocky Point, with the Latchkey After School program. And I think during the summer, it usually is in the mornings too, so we took off. The fun part about it is, I think we went with another, because the program, the after school program, had 3 different schools that hosted these programs. One was Hayden McFadden, or the nickname Hayden Mac, which is not that far from where I live. Gomes School was the other. Gomes School was one of the schools I attended when I was a kid in the first grade. And the other was Parker School. I was part of the Parker School. I was part of the Parker School program, and that's where I first went to. This is like the early '80s, 84, early '80s, '84, where I started getting into listening to music, collecting Garbage Pail Kids cards when I was a kid growing up. Then, like I said, so when I first went there, like I said, I went to the House of Horrors. First time I went, I thought it was so surreal. I sat in the middle, until a couple of my friends went with me, and it was a really scary thing. But it was crazy going in one of those cars, up and down and everything else. You're outside, you're going back in. You're like, oh crap, you got to go through this crap again. You get scared out of mind. It was the most surreal thing ever. It was a cool experience. I think the only amusement park that I went to before Rocky Point was Lincoln Park, and I was a little kid back in the day. I was a little kid back in the day, so I was a little bit more scared than I back in the day than I was. But Lincoln Park was in Dartmouth, Mass, and that park's been gone for decades. And so it, like I said, a lot of things in the 80s and 90s I miss, man. Rocky Point was one of them. And I have to admit, though, that Rocky Point was a great amusement park. Now it's just a regular state park, and it had plaques of the rides that were in, you check out, oh, it was here, and, it had information on it and stuff. So I have not been there since it did close down. I mean, too bad, because I don't even want to go down 195 anymore. It's totally nuts over there. It's totally nuts over there, And the only time I went down 195 is when I ride with my parents to go see my sister in Connecticut, for goodness sakes. My sister and my brother-in-law in Connecticut, for goodness sakes. And that's and that's just crazy in its own way, you know what I mean? But regardless of that, I had a great time at Rocky Point. Do I miss Rocky Point? Oh, sure. Yeah, listen, I miss Rocky Point, man. It was one of the coolest amusement parks ever on the planet. What was my favorite ride? Of course, the Apollo 2. I remember, Rocky Point was back in the day, of course. Listen to 80s music. Every time I listen to 80s music nowadays, it reminds me of those times I went to Rocky Point. Second time I went, I had a good time, but I did not go on the House of Horrors this time. I did not go on the Enterprise this time, But, then I went to, let me see, the third time I went to Rocky Point was when, I wish we had pictures. I didn't take any pictures. That kind of sucks. I wish I brought one of those disposable cameras with me. I should have taken pictures and saved them and stuff. The third time I went was with my church. Some of my father and his friends. But back in the day, I think my mother was pregnant with my younger brother Tyler at the time, and I believe one of the guys, their wives, decided to stay behind and be with my mother. Or did Mom go with me, but she decided not to go on the rides? I think she did, but she not. No, it was almost near the time because I think she was due. It was back in '88. We had a good time there. I've always loved going to Rocky Point. Really excited. But then the final time was 30 years ago, July 22nd, 1995. Like I said, a lot of changes happening. I moved here. We did some moving. I was trying to get adjusted to life in this house, and it was totally nuts. And then with my youth group, we went. We had a good time. This was a funny joke that happened. I rode with my assistant pastor, because he was the assistant pastor, church pastor David Lima at the time. Now he's the senior pastor. He's the head pastor of our church. Him and his wife and his kids and his family, and we all went to Rocky Point. I rode in with him. We drove by a Hooters on the way in Warwick. I said, "Hey, let's go in there and get a sandwich." I said, "Let's not say we did." I think he was trying to be funny. He was trying to be a wise guy. He was trying to be funny. So, but I was gonna say, "Hey," Pastor Dave, we drove by a Hooters. Pastor Dave wanted to go in. I said, "Let's not say we did." He was joking. And Pastor Dave was joking. Pastor Dave, if you're watching this, God bless you. It was pretty funny. I have to admit, it was pretty funny. So we went in. We had a good time. And when we drove out, but I did not know it was my final time going to Rocky Point. And do I miss it? Sure. But it had great rides. It had everything you wanted. Then, and now I hear that jingle. Come with your family. Come with your friends. Best of Rocky Point's tradition, 'cause it's summertime again. That jingle, it brings back memories, man. Back in the 80s, where I was a rapscallion, dude. That's why I love the 80s so much, because I grew up in that decade. And it was the coolest thing ever. That's when Hulk Hogan passed away yesterday. It was a big blow because it was the 80s. He was part of the 80s lexicon. This younger generation does not understand where I've been, bro. The 80s, man. The 80s were the shiznit. Excuse my language. The 80s were the jam of my life. Listen, the only bad thing about the 80s was these guys did not win a World Series until 2004. 1986 was their year, man. If I traveled back in time and saw them lose the World Series and look at some Red Sox fans, I would say, wait, all you have to do is wait another 18 years and just take off. What does he mean by that? Does he know something we don't? 18 years later, after 86, they won it. Man, Rocky Point Amusement Park was still around today. I've been wearing my Red Sox gear. saying I'm the man. My team won the World Series. I said, blast the 80s music. I want to hear some Tears for Fears. Everybody wants to rule the world. Dead or alive, you spin me around. I don't care. Put some Madonna on. Dress you up. Material Girl. Princess Raspberry Beret. You know? The songs that reminded me of the 80s. Ooh, Wham! Press Your Luck reminds me of the 80s. Last episode, I just played some Bullseye. 80s. Pac-Man. This year we'll be celebrating 45 years of Pac-Man. That was 80s. 40 years of Nintendo Entertainment System. 80s. Rocky Point was part of my 80s childhood, man. Rocky Point amusement park, man. There'll be no other amusement park like it. Even if you brought it back, it won't be the same. I'm telling you. I wish this younger generation would learn more about the 80s. Learn more about 80s pop culture and what it was like. That's why I'm bringing Nostalgic Shenanigans to you all. So I want to thank you all for watching Nostalgic Shenanigans episode. I threw up on my mouth there for a minute. Episode number 8. Rocky Point Park. I miss it. Don't know about you guys, but I miss it. Put a smile on my face when I think about the good times of the 80s and 90s. Especially the 80s. Yeah. Will there be more 80s stuff showing up? I'm sure. Like I said, this year we'll be celebrating 40 years of Nintendo. 40 years! Super Mario Brothers came out for 40 years. 1985. Imagine! 40 years. 40 years. 40 years. Unbelievable, right? I'll be in 2 years, I'll be 50 years old. It's crazy. It's crazy. Rocky Point, it is missed. I miss Rocky Point. Loved it. Only now, the only legacy of Rocky Point that I have is a t-shirt. Is a stinking t-shirt. But no. See, I've always wear t-shirts of stores of the past. I am the most nostalgic person in this place. I love being nostalgic. That's why Nostalgic Shenanigans, this segment does exist. About time the younger generation learns about the stuff that I liked when I was their age. So, thank you for tuning in. Tonight's SmackDown might be hitting a little bit different since the death of Hulk Hogan. So, you guys have a wonderful day. Until the next episode comes rolling around, Mr. Announcer, take us home. That is all for today's episode of the show. This is Mr. Announcer speaking for Eric Lima Shenanigans of 1977. A Big Beefy E and Do It for Bob Saget production, and in association with a Raving Bull for 3000 Telepictures and Distribution. Thank you for watching another episode of Eric Lima Shenanigans of 1977. See you later on the next episode of the show. Goodbye for now.